everyone. It's a pleasure to be doing my first ever StreamYard, and I have a great guest with me today. Someone I met through the community, got to meet in person during the last 3 Minute in a Basement comic crawl. Copy 801 is over here, and Copy, welcome.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for suggesting this. I wanted to do something with the Snyder Cut coming out. Spoiler. So I figured, instead of me just going on for, minutes, hours on end, might as well have someone going over it with me. So I figured, when you suggested it, perfect. So, like I said, spoiler, already blew the lead, but this is going to be our review of the Snyder Cut, and I have a somewhat formulaic format to go through so we stay on track, but definitely excited to talk about this. This was something I was looking forward to, and was really, really hoping, it nailed the landing, because if this sucked, almost a lot of my interest in the DC film universe was, gonna, fade and fade and fade. So overall thoughts, I figured we could start out with, and I thought this movie was incredible. It blew my mind how different this was from what we got with Joss Whedon in 2017. Just the first hour, there's nothing that we had even seen in the first, the original theatrical cut. And I could be wrong, but just even hour and change, like this is all stuff we haven't seen except for maybe in the original trailer. So right off the rip, I knew, like, okay, we are going to get, a completely different movie, it looks like. And I thought this delivered unbelievably. How about you, Copy?
Honestly, completely agree. Like, when the whole Snyder Cut thing was coming around, I noticed there was this whole big movement. It's like, oh, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut. And then people said it doesn't exist. And then other people said it does exist. And then we got the giant film reels where it just said it said Snyder Cut on it, and it's like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh my God, is this for show? Does it exist? And then when Warner Brothers and HBO Max last year made the official announcement, it was during the Superman. It was like the Superman Man of Steel watch party, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they announced that. I didn't do the watch party, but saw everything the next day. And I'm like, wow, okay. It's actually happening.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is it going to be good? Is it going to suck? Because everyone's hyping this up to be something that's just like, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And you need to watch it, and you need to look at it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, the last time we got really like big expectations, it failed. So, but honestly, overall, the movie, fantastic experience.
Absolutely. And then it's funny, I don't know about you, but coming out of 2017's version, I'm like, this was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I think, like you said, there's a lot of hype, and we were just so excited to finally get the coming of these heroes all together. And coming out of the theater, like, that wasn't too bad. And then just you let that sit, you sleep on it, and you think about it more, you watch more reviews, read more reviews, and you're like, yeah, this actually really wasn't a good movie. It felt like a clip show, looking, especially after watching, the Snyder Cut. It's just seemed like just a jigsaw puzzle that was put together without going to the correct places. And this Snyder Cut just felt more like a natural progression. Nothing felt like out of place or like, what's that doing there? So once again, yeah, I figure we could jump in with, to break it down, we go character by character. And let's go with the one who had, I think, the biggest improvement of screen time, and we actually got to see more, because in the original, Cyborg was almost like an afterthought. And growing up, I never really got into the Teen Titans as much. I was always more, when it came to teen books, FF, my favorite. You had X-Men, you had Justice League, you had Avengers. So I never really, and when the Teen Titan cartoon came out, I was a little bit older, so I never really watched even the original cartoon. So I never really knew much about Cyborg, and I was looking forward to, the original cut, okay, cool, we'll get a good intro and learn more about him, and we didn't get that. In the Snyder cut, it's almost like it's his story throughout the whole movie. What did you think about what we got? Because I won't even go into the whole backstory, because at this point everyone knows about the Ray Fisher saga, and how everything that's gone down with that. But seeing the Snyder cut, this guy had every right to, do what he did, I think.
Oh yeah, completely agree. I mean, even when Zack Snyder was going through the interviews and people were asking him, is there a cut that you had? Because he even said the movie was completely different. He said that Cyborg was integral to the story, just like you said. And how his arc went and how he was the central character was something completely new and different and fresh. Because Cyborg, let's face it, even in DC circles, he doesn't have a lot of fans. Not many people like him. Not many people care too much about him. So having him portrayed in this way, very brooding, very, I can't say PTSD, but he was depressed. He legit had depression during, I'd say, 3/4 of this movie. He has a very poor relationship with his father. His mother died. He practically died. Then he got kind of like brought back from the brink of death. His only family member is his father, who never paid attention to him. And his father's trying, but he's just looking at it as too little too late. And all the different places that he had during the movie where he was, just going into it very quickly with the tape recorder, like that was a powerful moment. It showed character development. Right when his father was like, and now I'm going to speak as your father, crack. And then at the very end of the movie, he uses his power, reconstructs it, and then he listens to it. So it's literally his arc throughout the whole thing. It's like, this is a Justice League movie. The way I looked at it is that this was a Cyborg movie that was centered around the Justice League. Like if you have a comic that has a primary and a secondary story. So you've got the primary story, which is Cyborg, and then the secondary story is the formation of the Justice League.
Yeah, that's great points. I agree with everything you just said there. His art throughout the movie is incredible. Like the football scene when I forgot if it was a championship game, but when he had the game-winning drive, and just that moment where he looks into the stands, see his mother in the empty chair, and we've seen that a bunch in movies, but with how they used it, and that really a lot of people can relate to that, even if it's just through seeing it in other films, or if it's even happened to them, but like you feel for him there. And then just his conversation with his mother when they're coming back from the game, the accident, and then everything going forward with him and his father, they just did a great job make you care about this. Going back to how you said no one really cared about Cyborg, this movie for me, it made me care about the character. And this another scene that was and they go to it a few times when he's at the cemetery, and you see he has his own gravestone. He's considered dead. Victor Stone is dead in that universe per se. So just seeing that, and now he's almost kind of walks like a phantom. I thought that was another awesome aspect they did to really help you feel for the character.
Oh yeah, completely agree. I actually, now that you brought that up, I forgot about that part.
And I want to say this. I said we'd be sprinkling other things throughout the characters. Zack Snyder just creates such good comic book movies. He makes it feel like you're watching something straight from the panel, and with the music, with the cinematography, he just creates those atmospheres. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I thought 300 is a really good sword and sandal movie based off great source material. You have Watchmen, which I think is fantastic. I'm one of the few, I think we've talked about this, I'm one of the few Man of Steel supporters. I think that's a great movie. Henry Cavill's my Superman. Batman vs Superman, the ultimate cut. Funny enough, we're talking about a cut here. I really enjoyed Batman vs Superman, and now seeing this, how he creates the atmospheres is incredible. So like the scene in the cemetery with him, and you see like the angel tombstone. I just thought the environment he creates is unreal, and it showed in this movie throughout, I thought.
Oh yeah, 100% agree with everything. And one thing that people don't realize, or that people, I can't say don't realize, but they tend to forget, because everything is so Marvel saturated right now. You have an expectation of what the scenes are going to be like, what the characters are going to be like. But even in the comics, DC is dark. It is much, much, much darker. And I'm not just talking Batman. Batman is Batman, and we all know Batman. But as a whole, the DC universe has a darker feel. Even if you look in the comics, like the Justice League, comics that have been churning out, they have a darker feel. They even use darker colors sometimes. Justice League Dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know I'm going on and on about dark, but that's that's the magical side of DC.
Mm-hmm.
Even the colors, even the area. Like in Justice League Dark, literally the headquarters is in the basement of the Justice League, in the Hall of Justice. And guess what? Darker colors, darker demeanor. Everything is like that. Batman vs Superman, I thought it was a phenomenal movie. Man of Steel, again, thumbs up right there. So he just kept it perfect, absolutely perfect the whole way through.
Where Joss Whedon made it feel like a Marvel movie. And I'm a fan of both franchises, but just to bring that up, Whedon's version felt like there wasn't that much darkness in it, and it took away from the movie. Like the atmosphere is sometimes a character, sometimes in films, and to kind of like make that movie brighter and funnier and lighter in tone. I think it, looking back at what we just got, Whedon did such a disservice to the film. So to see that Snyder really gets the source material on how to bring the DC panels, once again to life, it's kudos to him. And you mentioned Batman and Bruce Wayne. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. What did you think of how we got to see him in the Snyder Cut?
So Ben Affleck as Batman is literally the perfect version of Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
Batman.
Agreed.
If Frank Miller, there we go. Escaped me for a second. If Frank Miller was going to be the one to do a Batman, it would be Ben Affleck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked him about that, but I mean, you had the homage Batman again in Batman vs Superman, where he was against the building and you see the lightning come down, just like the famous cover. Even in this, they did something really similar. They did it kind of. You saw the lightning, and where's Batman? He's up on the roof and he's just kind of looking out. He's a perfect older Batman, because he's supposed to be Batman in his 40s. Because even in the movie it says I've been dealing with Gotham for 20 years. Yeah. So the portrayal, right on point as to what Batman should be. He's direct. He is to the point. He'll have a one-liner here and there, just like in the comics, but they don't go out of their way for it. It's like having a conversation with people, and then one person just says something like so outrageous, everyone just stops and just goes. That's what the interactions felt like in the Joss Whedon version. In this, perfect.
Agreed. And I love Keaton. Keaton's one of my favorite actors. I thought he did a great job, Batman, Bruce Wayne, but Affleck really gets into this character. And, I really hope we do get more. There's rumors, we could talk about that at the end of the future with him and the character. And Zack did a really good job showing why, not only him forming the Justice League, but why he had to. His conversations with Alfred, who Irons is an amazing Alfred, I think, as well. But to see Bruce throughout this whole movie, how it intended to be, I thought it was really cool to see him going to see Arthur, and we got to see that full scene, and more from the original trailer, and it just, once again, just made more sense from start to finish with him interacting with all the characters, going to try to form the league, talking with Alfred, and the suit too, like you said, it's just Frank Miller. Even the someone made a comparison to the Batmobiles, like the tank in Dark Knight Returns, and so
Mm-hmm.
he really fits that whole the Batman aspect really well. And if he's with these superpowered people and you believe that he belongs in there, he portrays the mannerisms, the brutality when he needs to. I thought he was great throughout this whole movie.
Oh yeah, completely agreed. And I heard, I'm gonna call these people out because I just finished watching it. So the Warriors just had their comics and coffee, and they talked about the Justice, and they talked about the Snyder Cut. And one thing, I forget whether one person said it or someone was like generalizing based on reviews. They said, "Oh, they're trying to make Bruce Wayne, Batman, to be too much like Tony Stark." I'm going to be honest, I did not see that. The reason why is because Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. He's got a snide wit about him. He's a womanizer. If you put James Bond in the Marvel Universe, that's him.
Yep.
Bruce Wayne, Batman, Ben Affleck, I thought was different. Yeah, you had a bunch of gadgets. Yeah, you had a bunch of stuff going on. But, like, look at the source material. He's rich. It's like even when Ezra Miller Flash goes, "Hey, what's your superpower?" He just turns to him in a stone face and goes, "I'm rich." And then the door closes. It's true. Yeah, he's got his gadgets, just like Iron Man. Yeah, he's got, a secret place, just like Iron Man. But it's done differently. Alfred always helps him out with whatever. He'll help him out when it comes to repairing something, making something, he'll make the tea, he'll do this. Alfred's even stitched him up on multiple occasions, so.
And the quick hitchhike on that, and chirps back and not argues, but he really makes Bruce question what he's doing. Jarvis, granted, in the movie he's an AI, so he can't really intervene that much, but Alfred will really question him and ask him, "Are you sure you want to do this? When's the next King Tide?" When he's trying to find Aquaman and stuff. The great points you just made, because they're similar but also completely different characters, and both actors, Ben and Robert, are doing a great job doing the same but different actor. And yeah, I get the point, but also, just like how Thor and Superman are different, it's kind of tough to compare. I usually don't like comparing the two brands because I don't even like crossovers that much, But yeah, and he really does hold his own in the fights, with whatever weapons he's using, or if he's being physical or driving the Batmobile or whatever, the Nightcrawler. And I want to get into his interaction, his chemistry with the rest of the league too is so well. We just talked about him and Alfred; they had just a great chemistry on screen. Him, and especially with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, those scenes you kind of root for them to be in a relationship.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. They kind of set it up a little bit too. There were a couple of scenes where one in particular, I just remembered. I'm like, I know there's something somewhere. So he's on the computer and he's looking for, I think, Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
He's looking for Flash, Barry Allen.
Yep.
And he puts his hand on the mouse, and she puts her hand on the mouse, and they both kind of look at each other, and they're like, "Oh, wait." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and she goes, "Oh, he goes, "Don't worry about it." I'm like, please let this be something, please, especially like now that we know from 1984 that Steve Trevor's, he's gone, he's just kind of around, but having those two be set up in a relationship would be phenomenal. And on that, I'm really, really happy that they got rid of the scene where the Flash was on top of Wonder Woman, and it was just kind of like, I'm like, really?
Yep.
All they had was just him asking Cyborg, like, "Oh, you think she would be?" He goes, "Hey, you think she'd be into younger guys?" He goes, just stone faced. "She's 5,000 years old. Every guy is a younger guy." And I'm like, and that just kind of shut him down. He goes, well, there's that.
And I like the scene where he first meets her and he does the. And I forgot this was in the original of the theatrical, but he goes, "Hey, Diana Prince. Hi, Barry Allen. I'm Diana Prince." Like, I, Zack Snyder might not be known for his comedy, but he places it very well where it's deserved and doesn't feel shoehorned in, and helps give these characters more personality. So it might not be as abundant in a Marvel film, but it's used, I think, once again perfectly.
Agreed.
Um,
100%.
and we mentioned Diana, and I want to just go into part of the reason why the first hour or so is completely different than the theatrical. We get way more Themyscira scenes with the Amazons, and when Steppenwolf first comes in, that scene felt so much longer, and it just was even more impactful because of some of the lines that, excuse my mispronunciation, Hippolyta, is that
Hippolyta.
Hippolyta? When Steppenwolf goes, I'll bathe you in your fear or something, and she goes, show him your fear or something like that. Just, I thought all that scene, all of the aspects of that scene were really, really awesome, and it it just was more fleshed out. So by the time Diana gets the arrow on the island of Crete, it was building so well where she saw that she realizes, crap, something is not right. I thought her journey throughout the movie was cool. You get to see her in the temple that we saw in one of the first trailers looking for Darkseid, or she sees the cave or wall drawing of Darkseid, and her explain the whole battle story. It's unbelievable how Whedon pulled that apart and just shoehorned in Steppenwolf, took Darkseid completely out, because there's just so much more in that. I still can't believe how that was, just taken apart. But anywho, I thought everything with the Amazonians was great. I thought Wonder Woman was great. How about you?
I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was just, first hour of the movie, they said we were going to get more Amazons, and we did. Their fight was just spot on the whole way.
And
Just,
brutal.
oh God. Yep, we saw people get chopped in half. We saw horses get chopped in half. Like, it was bloody, it was messy, it was nasty. But going to what you said at the end, when Hippolyta says that they need to light the war fire, and then one of her, I don't remember her name, one of the Amazon soldiers goes, this hasn't been lit in 5,000 years. Man will not know what it means. And she goes, man won't, but she will. And then we and then we see we cut to Wonder Woman in I guess she's working on a sculpture.
I think in
And
France, right? She's at the Louvre.
yes, she's in France. There we go. And she's in France, she's working on the sculpture, and you see the TV and people are like, mysterious fire has been burning for X amount of hours, and it's like, scientists don't have an explanation for this. And she takes one look at the TV, and her face goes from being, like slightly happy to being like,
Oh shit.
oh man. And she just rushes right over there, and then goes the whole scene where we get the tease for Darkseid. I thought that was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Having everything just based on the way that history worked in that time period. You have all these mosaics along the top of the wall of the inner structure. I thought that was fantastic. I'm looking at that, I'm like, how did you keep this out of the movie?
I know, but I was saying that throughout the whole film. And even before all that, you get the scene that we kind of saw in the original, the theatrical, where she's saving the hostages from the terrorist. There was so much more in that scene, and just once again, how do you cut most of that scene out? And I thought that scene was awesome.
Oh yeah. And the special effects that was used in that scene and in the movie alone, like, there were some people complained about this too, that there were, there was a lot of stop motion going on when it came to some of the scenes. But the way I looked at it, and I think this is the way that if and Zach, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think what you were trying to do was make a comic book. Every single time there was a stop motion, I literally pictured, because there's these little animations where it's like, oh, comic book comes alive.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, we have a scene, she's going here, and it stops. Panel. The scene stops. Another panel, another panel, another panel. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, this guy, this is brilliant, multi-layered storytelling without even outwardly saying it, which is what makes it so much better.
Yep, agreed. And that's why I love his past comic book films with 300, with Watchmen, Man of Steel, and BVS. There are moments like that where he was aiming to make this feel like it's taken straight from a panel, and that we're watching and reading a comic book at the same time.
Oh yeah. And it was just the way they did it. And like every time, it happened twice during the movie where they had the Wonder Woman music play. It was, I think, there. And I think it was during the fight with Steppenwolf at the end of the movie.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Where they had the music play right when they had the whole hostage scene at first. And you see Wonder Woman just perched on top of the building and she just busts through the door and you hear the music. It's like, oh, let's go.
Yeah. Like he makes the score, when done right, it feels like a character in a film, and he did that all throughout this film. And one thing in particular I want to mention, speaking of the Amazons, they had their own theme, and I always listen with subtitles, so sometimes you get little, kind of like almost Easter eggs or stuff you wouldn't have thought of if you didn't have them. Every time the Amazon theme was on, it said mournful lamenting or something like that. So it's just, and it fit because it was like, like crying. It was almost like it was the Amazons crying, throughout that, and it just creates chills. And I just thought he did a really good job with that score, and the score throughout the movie. Him working with Hans Zimmer, and I should have wrote this down, but I forgot the other person. But they did, scores unbelievable in this film.
Oh yeah, completely agree. The music was on point. 100. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna 100% of the time, and I don't think you could say that about a lot of different movies, but this one, it was just perfect. The music matched the scene. When it was supposed to be, somber, you had something nice and slow. When it was supposed to be action packed, it's like, yo,
heart pumping.
Boom. Yup. And there were times where I watched this and like I sat there stone faced the entire time because I'm just looking at it, and I have these headphones on, these big headphones, everything's just blocked out, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, this is a movie.
Yeah. An experience. So next, we've mentioned before, The Flash, who's in probably my top 5 favorite DC characters. Loved the CW show. I watched the last season and a half, but Flash was always, going back to the Justice League cartoon, always letting even the Super Friends, always loved the Flash. And Ezra Miller, it took some time for me to really accept that there's another Flash, because Grant Gustin plays such a good Flash on the TV show. But I will say this, and there's that scene with him in Wonder Woman Joss put in the theatrical. I did like him, but just like Cyborg, feels like we got cheated of a lot of what he should have been in the theatrical. I think he plays the character very well, different enough to make it his own from Grant's, but also different enough that it's his take on it. And now I'm okay with now that's Grant's Flash, this is Ezra's Flash. I really love the scene, and we saw this, I think even this was in the original trailer, the scene where he saves Iris. I thought that scene was one of the best scenes in the whole film.
Oh yeah, completely agree with all of your points. I mean, The Flash on the CW is a fantastic version. He's more, I'm going to be honest, he's more comic accurate just because of the time period that it takes place. Ezra Miller's Flash is, what if Barry Allen got his powers as a teenager? Not what if Barry Allen got his powers in his mid-20s. So he's got, a lot of people compare Ezra Miller's Flash to Wally West instead of Barry Allen, and I see that. I really do, and I understand that. And yes, he does act more like Wally West because he's the same age as Wally West.
Good point.
Wally West was a Titan. He's like 18, 19, 20. He's a young guy. Ezra Miller plays a young Flash. So, I mean, they both did, like you just said, you can't really compare them because they're so different, but there are similarities between them. And the way that Joss Whedon portrayed Flash was too kiddie. It was too. They made him literally Wally West. Like, and that didn't. I don't think that worked for his character because he's not. Yeah, he's a teenager, but he's not that type of teenager. He's got a couple one-liners here and there, but having him a little milder, the way that Zack Snyder intended, beautiful. It worked. It was great. There were no cringe moments. The scene where he saved Iris, I mean, yeah, there's criticism that it's just like, okay, does it have to enunciate so much that, oh, this is Iris? It's like, well, yeah. In my own personal opinion, it does need to enunciate because this is the first time you see him in the Speed Force. He's going slow. Everything is slow around him. And Iris catches his eye when he walks into the dog groomer. And then when he gets out, he's just looking at her. He's just fascinated by her. Completely and utterly fascinated. And then, slow motion, yeah, he grabs a hot dog because, well, I mean, he eats a lot, so.
Has to.
He has to. He burns like millions of calories a day. So, but that scene just set up for everyone who was not a Flash fan or was not familiar with him or didn't even know who he was. This is his love interest. This is Iris. You need to pay attention because this is going to be important later.
Yes. And I know I'm going to contradict myself again, but it seems like Josh tried to make him like Peter Parker, Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Yes.
And they're both younger superheroes, but they're once again completely different. And if we're talking Flash, Barry Allen Flash, he's not quippy. Even if he's younger, he's not as quippy. I just watching back or thinking of 2017, and it was, we had just gotten Tom Holland was established in the MCU. It was just like that he's just trying to create DC's Peter Parker Spider-Man. What Zach intended was a younger Flash, like you said, but Barry's not really known for his quips, so he, it was appropriate. I thought of one scene. Oh, what I loved about his Flash too, and similar to the Billy's friend in Shazam, I loved seeing him being a fanboy over Superman, but not like over the top. But he's like, we need Superman, and I just thought that was so cool because he's a kid. He's recently got his powers probably, and anyone that age, you believe like, yeah, he looks up to Superman. So I loved how they used all their different reactions when bringing back Superman, and when you go to Barry, it's like, yeah, he's my guy, he's my favorite. I'm a huge fan, and I love that aspect of Flash as well.
Agreed, completely. It was just better,
Yeah.
I even feel like, and this was in the original version, but the scene where everyone is just trying to stop Superman, and then you get the Flash going into the Speed Force and running after Superman. I could swear it looked different than the theatrical version, and I can't put my finger on it, but it felt different.
Was it put together? Did he put it out of order after watching the Snyder Cut? Did it seem like, because I thought the same thing, and I'm also thinking this isn't exactly what we got, but I remember the great scene of Superman looking at him in the Speed Force and like going, "Whoa!" That was like one of the few whoa moments I had in the theatrical. But I'm
Hmm.
with you, and maybe I could be wrong. Maybe just put it out of order or something, but I'm
Mm.
with you. Sun did feel a little different in a good way. Also, we got more of him and his father, right, in this version. There was a bunch that wasn't in, right?
Yeah. The only thing, the scenes were the same, but parts were cut.
Mm-hmm.
So like we got the beginning scene with him and his father, and then we got the scene where he got accepted to a crime lab. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the scenes were longer,
Yes.
and it fleshed out their relationship
Oh, so much more.
so much better. At the end, it was thinking about it, at the end, it was really funny. Barry goes to his father because his father's like super excited that he got a job at the crime lab. He goes, Dad, calm down. You don't want them to mace you again.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that
again,
was
okay,
perfect.
we need that story.
Yeah. Which, and I don't know if I forgot who reported it. It reported it could have been we got this covered, so take this with a grain of salt. But Billy Crudup isn't coming back, which I think after seeing this, I'm like, no, like you just felt for him and Ezra's chemistry, and now he
Mm,
might not be coming back. So I hope that's not true, but I kind of think it might have been from like a Variety or comicbook.com. But if the case, that's a real bummer because after seeing this, it was similar and yet different to Grant and John Wesley Shipp's Flash in the TV show because that's such a huge dynamic for the character, and to have now we've seen two different sets of father and son play that character, so the character relationship so well. Uh,
mm-hmm.
so once again, I thought that was another great part of the movie, the relationship between Flash and his father.
Oh yeah, that whole dynamic was just, it was a surprise, but at the same time it wasn't. And I only say that it's a surprise because, like you're not expecting it to be as emotional as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when it turned out to be, you were like, "Oh, wow," because we're used to hard emotion at this point between Cyborg and his father, and it was just very in your face. This was a lot more subtle.
Agreed. Agreed. Moving on. Uh, let's go into my favorite superhero of all time ever. It's Superman, and one of my favorite comic book stories is, or I should say, arcs: the Death of Superman, the Funeral for a Friend, Rise of the Supermen, and Superman Returns. And originally, one of my few quips with BVS is how they just shoehorned the Death of Superman in at the end with Doomsday. That whole thing could have been a whole movie in its own. Uh, but the black suit, I remember the show that's now on HBO Max, the '90s Superman cartoon. They had the black suit Superman on there, and that was one of the first action figures I had. So I've always had, through the reading the comics and then seeing it, in the cartoons growing up, that was just like always a cool. I thought just what a cool part, him coming back with the black suit, and to not get that in the
Mm.
theatrical is like a sin, and just it's amazing. And maybe I was just going in too optimistic going into the theatrical. I didn't notice the CGI mustache removal uh, upon first viewing, but then after rewatching, I'm like, oh yeah, it's clear as day. You could see it's fake, and uh, Joss did him, just like everything else in this film. He did, Henry a disservice, not having him come back with the black suit. The scene with Alfred, the scenes with him and him and Lois Lane on the farm with his mother, and that dialogue is like completely different too. I saw one of the reviews I watched said it's a completely different dialogue when he goes back to the farm with his mother and Lois, and Lois, who's also, we can go to her next, but it's just, and then once again, yeah, I think when he fights them, I think that was all pretty similar, but something was a little different. So that scene I did like because I'm iffy when superheroes are fighting other superheroes. If there's not a purpose for it or a good purpose, I'm kind of like, I hate seeing superheroes fight other superheroes. They're good guys.
Yeah.
But it made sense because we got more of his rebirth, more setup to his rebirth when they're discussing, let's bring him back. Should we bring him back? Is this a good idea? When they're in the ship, they fleshed, Zach fleshed all that out so well where you can believe, like, okay, he's just coming back from the dead. That's why he'd be acting like this. And, you hear Lois, he sees Lois. It flowed so much better. And once again, I think Cavill just plays the Clark Kent and Superman dynamic so well. Another character, I know there's a bunch of speculation and rumors. I think Cavill does a great job with this character. And in this film, even though he's not in as much because he's dead for about half of it, I just thought he delivered once again. Loved him in Man of Steel, loved him in BVS. How about you?
Oh yeah. So I completely agree. He does a great job playing Superman, and this is one of the two roles that people know him for now, is The Witcher and Superman. And Superman gave him that role because of his popularity. But it made sense, like you said, when he was fighting the other heroes, because he just got resurrected. His mom, it's similar to, the way I put it is that they made this similar to the Lazarus pit. When you first get resurrected, you have brief moments of insanity, and if you're strong enough, you will regain your sanity. And that was kind of what happened to him. He got resurrected. He was confused as all hell. Unfortunately, Cyborg set it off by having his automated system blast him, and that's what caused the fight. But after that, when him and Lois went to the farm, and he's slowly regaining his memory, and he's slowly getting it back. And then when his mother shows up, he pretty much has, like, I'd say half, because he remembers certain things. Like, just having all of that, the emotion was much, much more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then having him come back to the ship, and his interactions with Lois, when he realizes, Bruce, they brought me back for a reason. I need to find Bruce. He goes to the ship. We see the uniforms, and then we see the black suit. And then he goes to talk to Alfred, and Alfred's like, he said you'd come. And he's just like, he goes, and then he just goes, I think all he says is, what does he want me to do? Or like, where does he want me to go? Something like that. I think it was just one line.
Yeah, and then it cuts
back to the fight with Steppenwolf. Yeah. And it's just, I can't even. It was so good. He shows up and everybody's just like, and then you just see Wonder Woman with Aquaman, and she goes, Kal-El, and you just see him and he just goes thwack.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, this fight is pretty much done right now.
Yeah. And there's one point I forgot to mention. When he's in the ship going through the uniforms, the interaction, if it was in the theatrical, I was asleep during, him hearing both his fathers, Jor-El and Pa Kent. Oh, that was so good. And it felt like it was like all three of them were there. The way Zach was able to combine those conversations with his, both past and now deceased father, or the deceased fathers. I thought that is just, you got the feels with that. I hate what people say. Superman is just, he's OP, he's God level. Like, you don't care about him. Like, I'll defend Superman to the day I die, because what Zach does well, that, and comic book writers can't do this. They make you feel for him when you have scenes like that with his family and his human side. When in the past movies, when you see him as Clark, to do Superman well, you need to make the reader, the viewer, feel for him. And the comics, Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens, John Byrne, I believe, you read, Superman is done when you feel for him, and those writers, amongst others, and Zach, it really hits the the emotion level with Clark and Superman, and it's shown. And once again, he might not be in the first half of this movie, but those scenes on the farm and the ship with the League, Zach just so well with those.
Completely agree. Everything was just it was so good the way that they put it through, because Superman is an overpowered character, and in order to write an overpowered character well, it's like you could have the monster of the week, but make him human.
Yeah.
Give him human issues.
Superman and Zach, Zach understands the character, and that's why I really hope, even if they aren't in the main DCEU continuity, if Henry is leaving, I hope we get this kind of like Elseworldsy HBO Max story, to continue his original Justice League plan, and even give him a proper send off in his own special movie, or if he stays. And I have nothing against, Michael B. Jordan becomes Superman. If those are true, he could act the phone book. But it's just, we haven't this helped, but we still haven't gotten enough Henry Cavill, and
No,
one of the biggest roles, it's like a James Bond, Superman, James Bond, Indiana Jones. It's just one of those roles that you need a lot, to really see that character have a full arc with. So I hope we get more Clark. Lois, it's like a completely different movie for her. And I forgot exactly how it went down in the Whedon version, but there's the scene with her at the Daily Planet, and Martha goes to visit her, and that was completely a Joss Whedon scene, because nothing like that in the Snyder cut. You see her, and what WandaVision did so well is the grief, and you see how her and other characters are dealing with grief. We saw Lois, and she was like out, she wasn't going to work. She was, they showed her in in her apartment in a dark room, and you just felt for her. And then to see, when they threw in that she might even be pregnant, they threw that aspect. So she's pregnant and Clark's dead. So it's like, once again, making you feel for the characters more. And to see the scene with her and Martha, that was a great scene. And we heard all the rumors about how certain Martian was in the original cut, and how back in Man of Steel, he was the general. And first to get that interaction between Martha and Lois, and then when Martha leaves and she's revealed to be the Martian Manhunter, that stuff was great. And once again, how do you leave out one of the founding members of the Justice League from the comics in the first Justice League movie? How do you leave something like that out? But what did you think about how Lois was in the movie, the little bit of Martha, and the big reveal with the Manhunter?
So I thought they really portrayed Lois a lot better in this movie. A lot better. They got her grief down pat. Absolutely 100% down. It felt rushed in the Joss Whedon version. In this, you were able to explore. And when the Martha scene came up and Martha goes and visits her, the one line that stuck out for me between them was when Lois tells Martha, the world needs Superman. And then Martha goes, yeah, but the world also needs Lois Lane. And she gets up, they both smile, she walks out, and then we find it's Martian Manhunter. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God! The only thing that would have been better is if they got the guy who plays Martian Manhunter on Supergirl.
He's so good.
My God, if they just, because, he's freaking, he's, DEO agent and all this. And I'm just like, and they did that. I think they did that as a nod.
Yeah.
To, the Supergirl show from CW. But if they got the same guy to play him, and at the end, instead of whoever, don't get me wrong, whoever played him, he did a great job. Nothing against him, but it's a nice little Easter egg just to have him go over there. and have him say again, the world needs Lois Lane. If that was him, I would have freaked out. I would have been like a freaking schoolgirl, just like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, they got him to play it. But no, having that scene and then having it be Martian Manhunter. Oh my God. It fits so perfectly. I was like, oh my God. And then at the end of the movie, just going to digress on Martian Manhunter for a second.
Please.
The end of the movie, Bruce Wayne is, being Bruce Wayne, chilling in a freaking nice little luxury, small little house to get away with things with Alfred. Martian Manhunter comes by and he's talking to him and he goes, talks to him a little bit and says that, he has a stake in this world and how they'll be in touch. And then at the end, he's like, I don't even think that Ben Affleck asks, what should I call you? I don't think he even asks that. He just turns around and he goes, we'll be in touch. Oh, and some people call me the Martian Manhunter. And I'm like, yes.
Love those moments.
Oh my God. I'm like, this sets it up beautifully. But back to Lois, having her grief and having all the scenes with her when from the farm to her apartment, just the farm was so good too, because it just showed like she couldn't believe it when she was in Metropolis and he was there, and they go to the farm and he's slowly remembering and she's helping him out, and then they go, and then Martha comes by, real Martha comes by, and they all just kind of, she hugs Clark, and then she motions over to Lois like, come here, your family too. And they all just give him a hug. Oh. It's like, all right, Superman is back.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes off and he's like, he just tells Lois he has to go, and she's like, and she's crying because she knows, I just got you back, but she's like, go.
Mm-hmm.
Just go handle business.
Yeah.
Just, they did such a good job. Such a good job.
So we have one more member of the League to talk about, Aquaman, and I thought, we got pretty much, one thing Josh somewhat kept. Well, no, but it wasn't as bad as like how Cyborg was completely taken out of the theatrical, Flash, and even the other characters. But we got more of the scene of when Bruce goes to see Aquaman. We got what was shown in the first trailer, and that scene was so much better than just the quick bit we got in the theatrical. I think Momoa is great. I know some people think he's, Aquaman's not heavy metal or shouldn't be, but if you read recent, maybe it's because of the movies, but that doesn't bother me. I think Momoa, plays his character well. This take on Aquaman, I'm all for, because he's a different personality from all the other members, and it blends in nicely because he's a badass, and more even than Bruce Wayne per se, where it's just like he kind of starts out, it's like, I do my own thing, I don't need that, blah blah blah. The whole stuff with, we get way more Atlantean stuff in this film, which is another that. So I'll say that Atlantis and the Atlanteans, there was way more in this than what Joss ended up putting out. I love the scene when him and Bruce are done. He goes off, and this, maybe it was, I honestly can't remember much of 2017, but where were they? Sweden or Iceland?
Russia,
I
think. Yeah, it was like a small fishing town in Russia.
When he goes off, and then the women go up to the shore and they start singing that, Russian tune or whatever. That was just, I thought that was really cool. I don't know what it meant, but at the same time, it's just come almost like the respect they have towards him. And once again, I didn't translate. I should have gone back to see what that song meant, but I just thought that was cool. It was different, and it kind of shows how the people, that whole sequence, even when they're still in the building, you see how they treat and respect Arthur Curry. So I thought, right off the bat, what we got with Aquaman was cool. The stuff with him and Volko, we got Willem Dafoe's completely axed from the Joss version. So the scene, so it works. The scenes that we got of Atlantis and the Atlanteans works is without making like an Aquaman, prequel or having an Aquaman movie before Justice League. It was a good setup towards the movie we actually got, because it really shows how his character, if you take all the new Aquaman stuff now and this, watch it before the actual Aquaman movie, it shows a great progression for the character. Him and Willem Dafoe work great with one another. I won't talk much about Amber Heard, but I guess I did. I still.
Bye.
You got to have the love interest, so at least I'll say that I kind of buy their relationship, especially after watching the movie. But the scenes where, and we'll get more into the villains. I'll probably jump into villain stuff next, but when the parademons are dragging the Atlanteans out of the water and where Steppenwolf's trying to find the mother box, that was not in the original. A lot of the Steppenwolf underwater stuff was cut out. And I'm just trying to think of what other stuff was removed from the theatrical. But overall, I like Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I love him with the Justice League. What do you think about Aquaman and Atlantean stuff in the Snyder Cut?
So a lot of that stuff was cut out from the Joss Whedon version. I think the only thing we got was like one interaction between him and Mira.
Yep.
And then it went full speed over to Steppenwolf invading and capturing the mother box. Mm-hmm. Having, him with Willem Dafoe, like there were like 2 or 3 scenes with that. Having Mira there, and then having the scene where the parademons take the soldiers out of the water. Just everything about it was much better. It set it up so much easier for the Aquaman movie because there was less dots to connect.
Exactly.
And Jason Momoa's character for Aquaman, I mean, Aquaman is a badass, but like the Aquaman that they used was 90s Aquaman.
Yes, with the beard hook.
Yep, with the beard. In the 90s, everyone was more extreme and all this. That was the whole comic book thing and the whole craze going on. So what happened? Aquaman's hand got eaten by piranhas. And then he had the hook. And he also had the longer hair. And he had the scruffiness. Same thing that Jason Momoa does. I think it's a direct callback to the 90s Aquaman because that personality Aquaman fits, best.
Yes.
With this universe. And Jason Momoa did a fantastic job. Always not even like I do what I do for Atlantis. He's like, no, screw that. I do what I do for me. Mm-hmm. So this was just great portrayal of the character, fantastic acting. Yeah, Amber Heard is out and, he needs a love interest, but from the
Rachel
scenes
McAdams.
that she did, I
think she'd be good Mira.
Amber Heard is gone. Apparently, I heard that Emilia Clarke is going to be Mira.
Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people who've not watched Game of Thrones, surprisingly. But I know she's good in that show. A lot of people like her, so I'm all for it. And plus, they have chemistry in Game of Thrones, right?
Yes. They are actually they don't just have chemistry in Game of Thrones, they're friends outside of life.
Oh, cool.
In life. They're good friends. Every time that he goes to Europe, or I think Emilia Clarke is English or British. Every time he goes to, and I know people are going to say, and this is going to be premiered, so I know people are going to correct me in the chat, which is fine. Go for it. But every time that he gets over there, he visits her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they have a great working relationship. They have a great relationship outside of work. So having Amelia Clark come in as Mira would be a vast improvement.
All for it. Because yeah, there's times when Amber just seems like she's not even trying, or overdoes it.
Yeah, it was just. I felt like sometimes she was too dramatic.
Yeah, and we'll get to the nightmare scene at the end, but there was the what she says that one part. I'm like, calm down. I thought it was like a little too much over the top. Um, but yeah, I just love how they do the underwater stuff and just him swimming. I think the effects they use, and then they use obviously we saw more in the movie. I'm gonna call them talk bubbles, but I thought once again they showed underwater interaction and just underwater film scenes very well. I really liked how they did those.
Oh yeah, it was. The whole thing was just better. It was
Yeah,
just good. Like I can't say enough good things about
yeah.
it.
Now we'll get to the villains, and unbelievable. It's night and day. The whole in the Joss version, Steppenwolf looks terrible, and his motives completely taken away from the Zach's portrayal. Where once again, it's like it feels like we should have had setup or more background to why exactly he's doing this, where exactly did he come from, what the parademons are. Um, and it's just when you see the Snyder cut, it just makes uh, complete sense. And uh, once again, his how he intended to look, his suit, whatever kind of apocalyptic armor, or where it's almost like live, like almost like a symbiote, almost. Um, uh,
Yeah.
that was like it reacted, and he could like remove it or have it, and almost like I'm comparing to Marvel more about how Stark can use the nanotech he did in the last films to like just move to wherever he wants to. So I thought, and once again we talked about how brutal the Amazon scene is. It's just we got more with Steppenwolf, and then Darkseid, one of the greatest villains in comics. We got the introduction to him in the war scene. We get all the calls to. I loved how he used the mother box to communicate with. We get the Sod, and then eventually we get Darkseid. I thought they explained all the New God, Fourth World stuff so well without overdoing it and making it feel like they're just adding on. It felt like it connected. They introduced like the anti-life equation and what the mother box mean. They did it so well without once again making it feel like it's just tacked on like superhero movies tend to do. And you just said more meaning. You learn more about Steppenwolf, how he was like casted out of Apocalypse. Now he's doing this to get in his good graces. He's not, just saying mother randomly. Where is he talking about the mother boxes? Is he talking about his own mother? It just made so much more sense. And he's just brutal. The first fight with him when the Justice League is when they're all formed, or before Aquaman shows up, when it's just Batman, Cyborg, Flash, Wonder Woman. Their battle with him was great, and that it's amazing how all of that seemed like a lot of it was new as well, or not in the Joss version. Um, what did you think about how they used Steppenwolf and his motives and our introduction to Apocalypse, pretty much?
So Steppenwolf was much better, much more fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
We had no idea why he was doing what he was doing. It's just like, oh, monster of the week,
Mm-hmm.
big bad guy from Apocalypse coming to Earth to try and enslave the Earth. And it's like, yeah, if you're a DC fan, it's like, I know Steppenwolf. He works for Darkseid. I get it. It's all good there. But this fleshed it out so much more. Just having him,
Mm-hmm.
just having the fact that he betrayed Darkseid, he felt bad, and then he's trying to get in his good graces, like you said, talking to Desaad. And then the fact that he finds the anti-life equation and tells Desaad, he goes, I found it. He goes, I have found it. And he goes, I need to speak to Darkseid. I need to state my case. And Desaad's like, can it be true? And he goes, yes. And he talks to Darkseid, and he goes, you have found it. You found anti-life? He goes, yes. He goes, I have seen it, sire, with my own eyes. And I'm like, yo, this guy is like super excited right now.
Yeah.
He's like, he's gonna get redeemed, and he's gonna be able to get back into his good graces. And Darkseid is like, and we find out that Darkseid's gonna come to Earth himself. And it's just having, and the armor.
Oh.
It was like, it's literally like living armor.
Mm-hmm.
It absorbs things. It's spiky, yeah, but it absorbs everything.
He's getting hit with arrows. He's getting hits with Wonder Woman's sword, Aquaman's trident. He takes it. It's like barely a scratch on it. So they, like you said, it's just Jack Kirby smiling somewhere, watching, seeing that, because it just did his creation so well. And they're silly if you think about it, and I guess all comics, but 3 boxes create a portal to mass destruction, but it's just it makes it feel intense, or at least Zach's vision. This is just felt big. It felt like, okay, we need a Justice League to help prevent this.
Oh yeah, the stakes were so much higher. The stakes were so much higher in this, and like one of my favorite scenes for the movie was, there were 2 that had to do with Darkseid. The first one was before you just see the boom tubes, it's like, it's like, is this a boom tube? It's opening up and he's just going, choop. And it's like, yeah, but nah. And then at the end, you get the beep, 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 wah. And I'm like, that's a fucking boom tube.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's a boom tube right there. And you see Darkseid, you see Desaad, and Granny Goodness right over here. She doesn't say anything, which is fine. And you just see then, they're about to come on through. Wonder Woman lops off his head right when he's about to go into to retreat. And Desaad's like, I told you, sire, he would fail. And then at the end, you get Darkseid just like, okay, we'll have to try the old ways. Desaad, ready the armada. And then you see everything, and I'm like, yes, we're gonna get a space battle.
Mm-hmm. And just they even explained where the parademons, how they originate, and I don't think they did that in Joss's version, where it's just that, why would you leave out? Yeah, they're pretty much prisoners, captives of fallen plants they've already laid waste to, and they get stripped of everything, and they just become these flying insect soldiers. And it just makes them even more badass, because I was not even knowing what a parademon is. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I guess it would be neat to know where they come from. And it's because there's so much that goes into those things. I love how they finally told us why. And yeah, even from Darkseid, you just see him, Desaad, and Granny Goodness just looming and watching it take place. And then you see from Darkseid's or over his shoulder, and you see him looking at the League, looking at him, and that's just, you want that movie, you want that sequel so much. And like you said, the second one was supposed to be a space battle, and it was going to be big, and Darkseid was gonna end like Empire, and Darkseid was gonna be on top, at the end of the movie. And I just hope we get that now. I hope, just like the movement gave us this first, the Snyder cut, now there's Restore the Snyderverse. So I just want to see that, because, like Thanos got his due. Granted, he got 9-10 films. The inspiration to Thanos was Darkseid. And I think who knows, Tom King has said that, he can't say much, but his New God movie is still going strong. I think it's almost, I don't know if he's finished writing it, but who knows what continuity that's going to be in, or if that's going to be almost like an Elseworlds. So like I just feel like we need to see this original trilogy, and then it got cut down to just being a two-parter. But really hope we see this, because it left you like a good theater performance or a good television show, a good show. It left you wanting more. And the villains in this, before we get into the nightmare and like the whole epilogue scene, we got a better overall evil in this than we did in Joss.
Completely agree. It was so good, and I've been saying this in chats, and I've been telling people this ever since I watched the Snyder Cut. If they pulled an Infinity War Endgame the way that they did with this, it would have been amazing. Have this Justice League movie be 2 parts. Just have 2 separate Justice League movies, but have them be 2 parts each.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been an amazing part 1, and then part 2, where we get the ending, the epilogue, just like, because that epilogue literally felt like when I watched Endgame, part 1 of Endgame was this was very reminiscent of part 1 of Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this whole thing was reminiscent of part 1 of Endgame. And then, like, it just sets everything up beautifully. If you had just cut this movie in half, 2 hours, and you have the first part released in 2017, the second half released in 2019, this movie would have blown everything out of the water. It would have been phenomenal. And then have the part 3 for Justice League, which is the beginning of the space battle to where Darkseid is winning, and then have part 4 be like 2022 or 2023, there would have been hype. Like,
mm-hmm.
The MCU right now is king of the live action.
Mm-hmm.
But this would have been hype. Like,
it would have been on that level, if not more.
Oh my God. Honestly, I'm a DC fan, and I'm completely biased, but I think this would be at a higher level than the MCU for one reason. People have been waiting for DC to get their act together. The MCU right now, we're kind of spoiled because we have an expectation as to what the level is going to be, how the cinematography will be, how the acting will be, how the special effects, the story. We're expecting high quality stuff. And then DC comes along and it's just like, hey, by the way, it's like the best way I could put it is you're at a red light and you get 2 cars and they look at each other and they're going to race. One is a Lamborghini and one's a Honda. You think that the Lamborghini is Marvel and the Honda's the DCU. Like, you're expecting that Lamborghini to win. Like, look at it. It's a freaking Lamborghini. But then all of a sudden you realize that the Honda's got that the Honda is a tuner car with a turbo on a manual with NOS, and it just keeps up with it. And you're like, what? That I really do truly believe that would have happened. If Zack Snyder was allowed to keep his vision, that would have happened. People would have loved the first part, and there would have been so much hype that how we're talking about how every other day this Marvel book is spiking, this Star Wars book is spiking, these books are spiking. It'd be like, we're so hyped because we saw Darkseid, and then you could just have it end with Darkseid, and it's like, we're gonna get Darkseid, we're gonna get Granny Goodness, we're gonna get all these people. All these books would spike. Everyone would be talking about it. It's like, who else are we going to get? What else are we going to get? Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I could talk about this all day. But
that's almost like a separate video.
I know. It would have been, oh boy. But if this is very popular and Warner Brothers does decide, hey, listen, if they come with their tail between their legs and they're like, yeah, we gave you this a lot of money, but it's like, this was a lot better than we thought it was going to be. We're sorry. If you want to do this the way that you wanted to do it, we'll let you, and we'll put it in theaters and HBO Max now. If they do that, my God, it.
But yeah, we'll go talk about the epilogue scene quick. You don't have to go every detail in it, but the two main ones. We get the scene from that we got at the end of 2017, where essentially Lex is broken out of Arkham and Deathstroke goes to him on the yacht, but it's a completely different conversation almost. Lex goes, I know Bruce Wayne is the Batman, and that Deathstroke's now he's intrigued. And I don't know if you've heard this, but originally it was supposed to set up a Legion of Doom that consisted of those two, Orm, Black Manta, Dr. Poison from Wonder Woman, and Riddler, and Captain Cold. That was going to be the Legion of Doom in the original Snyder Justice League trilogy. So we didn't get all of that, but now that makes even more sense, because now he's got Deathstroke definitely in, and it plants a better seed of, even if that wasn't going to be in a Justice League film, it planted the seeds for eventual Legion of Doom post Darkseid stuff. And then we also get we kind of already talked about the Martian Manhunter scene, but before that, Bruce Wayne wakes up from another nightmare, and in it's almost just like the same atmosphere he was in the BVS nightmare scene, but this time he's got a team of Cyborg, Flash, Mara, Mohawk, Deathstroke, and we get the big Jared Leto Joker return. And that was, some people have said that scene was unneeded. It was just, tacked on. I think a lot of us knew that it was a brand new scene that even wasn't in his original. But I thought that scene was awesome. Even with Mara overacting, because there's one scene I forgot to talk about when they're bringing Superman back. Cyborg touches the mother box and gets like a premonition of, you see Darkseid on the throne, and then you see Darkseid killing Arthur Curry, and you see Darkseid coming up from behind Clark, Superman, what looks like a dead Lois in his arms, kind of like a nice homage to the Death of Superman cover. But so we saw that. So, and now this new nightmare scene, Mare's like, we got to get him for what he did to Arthur, and we're thinking they're talking Darkseid, but you see Superman come in with the red eyes. But just the best part for me in that whole thing was the interaction between Bruce and the Joker, and how he mentions how many different universes are you going to make the same mistake on, or something like that. And he mentions what else do you need to lose? A father, a mother, a Robin, and then Batman says, when Harley Quinn died in my arms, she said, "Kill him nice and slowly," or something like that. I know I'm butchering the exact dialogue, but I just thought that scene, I was all in for it. I'm a big past videos you saw when I did my artwork from Ralph Burrows. I mentioned how it's Joker's the villain, the Batman villain, and I didn't hate him in Suicide Squad. We'll quickly do our DCEU rankings. It was a different take. I thought we should have gotten more to really have an opinion on him. I think he's a great actor. But I thought this version, this alternate timeline nightmare version, I thought he was great in the few moments that he had. You already, and it's not even 2 minutes maybe, but you already have a feel for their history. Just not just these two particular, Batman and Joker. You already have a feel for everything that went down between these two particular ones. I thought the scene was great.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, people say it kind of got shoehorned in, but at the same time, like, this is an alternate reality. This is another Earth. Like, we're on Earth Prime. That could be, you know, something like Divergent, similar to the Injustice universe, where, just like you said, the homage to Death of Superman, Superman's holding Lois's burnt body, and then he just goes off the rails, just like that, you know? Superman went off the rails. But having that interaction between Joker and Batman, like, a lot of people didn't like Jared Leto's interpretation of the Joker. Personally, I didn't really care for it too much either, because I felt like it was too... They were trying to be too different. They were trying to make the Joker more like Harley Quinn, when in reality the Joker is the Joker. And having him here, no tattoos, no, just the white and the dirty red lipstick, whatever, along his face. Just having him with that was phenomenal. It was their interaction. They have history. And you could tell right there that they hate each other, but they're working for each other right now, and they have to deal with each other. And it was just, it was just some really good character development between them. It set up an interaction between Batman and the Joker later. And
they're rumored to be Zack Snyder going to do a Killing Joke with those two. That's been a rumor for HBO Max. So I don't think they're done. Maybe it's overly optimistic, but I don't think they're done. It gave me vibes, if you've read the original Metal, Dark Knight's Metal. Have you read that?
Oh, yeah.
It gave me vibes of when Batman and Joker have to team up to take on the Batman who laughs at the end in that big reveal. Should have done spoiler warning. I'll fix that in post. But yeah, it got vibes of that, because they're teaming up to take on a greater enemy. And in this dream, nightmare world, it's, you know, not only Darkseid but Superman. So with this team, and then taking on pretty much Superman and Darkseid, and just what could be and what could happen in the future, and hopefully we get something, you know, like that. So I figure now we move over. We're running in on an hour and a half now. So I figure we do our rankings, and then, you know, our final overall thoughts of the film.
Okay.
So for me, I include just one version of the BVS for me personally, but for Justice League, I have both in mind. So I have Suicide Squad at the very bottom, followed by 2017 Justice League, Wonder Woman 1984. These next two, I'm always going back and forth, but I'd probably, you know, going from top to bottom, or bottom to top. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, BVS, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Man of Steel, and, you know, maybe it's still fresh in me and I'm still, you know, in like the honeymoon phase, but if we're not including Joker, which I put number one if we do include this, but it's almost in like its own thing. But if we're just going on DCEU, Snyder Cut's my number one.
I really do agree with a lot of those. The bottom one for me is probably going to be Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was the bottom for me. Then, I mean, it's so tough. After the Suicide Squad, you know, you get the original Justice League movie. And then, you know, probably...
It is tough. And, like, I didn't hate Wonder Woman 1984. I enjoyed parts of it. You know, once that was another movie where you thought about it more after, and you read and watch reviews, and you're like, yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of a mess at points. But I love all the actors involved, and I think with what they were given, they all did a good job. but and it hurt putting that so low, especially because the first Wonder Woman was so good, and it's right in the middle of my list.
I'll do my top 3 just because I don't know.
Sure, it's tough. It does get tough.
It is so tough. This is going to be number 1 by far. It's not even a competition. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, this gets like a 9.
I gave it because on Letterboxd, you can rank it with stars out of 5, so I put 4.5. And I'll quickly put. I don't really have many negatives, and it's not really negative. And he had, in a way, only so much time to get this done. At points, you can nitpick and say the CGI didn't look as finished as it could, but that's a very minor nitpick. If Snyder had like a whole year to do this, it probably would have, it's very minor, and it's almost just like nitpick to nitpick because, and I'm sure we agree there's not much wrong with this, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Like this, like it's not perfect. It's a lot better than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, it's a fantastic movie. I'm going to be seeing it again this coming week. So, of course, I'll let everybody know. I'll let you know. Does it have rewatchability? Because that's a really big thing. Like if a movie has rewatchability, it's got to be a good one.
Yeah.
But Snyder Cut would be number 1. And then, number 2, honestly, I'm going to probably say the first Wonder Woman movie. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was fan-freaking-tastic. And then number 3, I'm going to give it a tie between Birds of Prey and Batman versus Superman. Only because, like, I thought they were both like a solid, 8. Very solid. A lot of people did not like Birds of Prey because it was very, different. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie.
I think she's great. People say she's not Harley Quinn. They said Hugh McGregor wasn't that good. I wanted more of him. I was bummed that he ends up, meeting his maker at the end of it. I thought he was great. I thought Zaz was great. People will be like, how come Black Canary, did some of the things she did or didn't do things she should have done, and how come it's a lot of people nitpick these movies. Really, I just made the comment that I'm nitpicking, but I think people seriously, especially with the DC movies, try to go into it looking for what they could say is a negative, which is it is what it is. But yeah, I enjoyed Birds of Prey, and for why it's ahead of BVS for me is just because and I am including, I mean the Ultimate Cut. I thought they suffered a little bit from doing a little bit of too much, and that could have been Warner Brothers too, but they shoehorned in, I thought, the one, maybe I'm biased because it's one of my favorite story arcs, the Death of Superman, once again, I thought could have been its own film, or Man of Steel 2. But I still love it because I love I think Eisenberg, we'll mention him quickly, I think he's good. It's a different take, and it's almost, that movie is his beginning, and then you see where he is now pretty much. So he is kind of now the Lex we know from the comics, or Zach's take on that. And yeah, the original Wonder Woman is so good with the No Man's Land scene alone is, phenomenal. I could rewatch that movie just, for that scene alone. I'm curious, were you a Shazam fan?
I thought the movie was okay. A lot of people really enjoyed it. I thought it was, it was it was lighthearted, but like, was it all that in a bag of chips? Not in my opinion, which is fine because, people enjoy things that other people don't. But I feel like that in order for Shazam to be a little bit of a better movie, it's got to be more, I don't know. I will base my opinion on Shazam to see how this Black Adam movie comes out.
I'm stoked for that, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's our rankings, and I think just kind of like closing final thoughts. I kind of said my grade 4.5, like you said, if we're going on numbers, or out of 10, I'd go probably 9 out of 10 as well. 9.5 out of 10. It lived up going into this film. I was nervous because if this sucked, there's no more of this Snyder cut stuff, no more Snyderverse. Warner Brothers is going to be like, okay, we gave them what they want and it didn't work. Now we can continue to meddle into all these productions and make the movies how we see them. So there was a lot writing on this, and for me, and last time I checked, Rotten Tomatoes, because that's just an average of people's thoughts, and Rotten Tomatoes though was 77%, and the fan score was 97. That's probably the best for any DC movie so far in this universe, for both grades, both scores. I thought this was good. It left me wanting more. It gave us the movie we should have gotten in 2017, which is a completely different movie. And I'm going to probably rewatch it at some point this coming week as well. But yeah, this was such a fun experience. Well worth the wait. For me, it lives up to the hype and then some.
Completely agree. Such a great movie. So awesome. Really happy that the fans have enjoyed this movie and that they have responded so positively. The critics are one thing, but like when both jive, it's heaven.
Yeah.
It's completely awesome. And I'm really looking forward to see if Zack Snyder does any of his other future projects. Hopefully he gets the green light after this.
Yeah.
Really hoping. But
agreed.
We'll see.
Yeah. Let's just keep the movement going on social media. I already have Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, hopefully we get more, because I think there's more of this great story to be told with these characters, with these actors, and everything, they tease us in this movie. So that being said, this was a blast. I'm happy we were able to do this. I don't usually do reviews, especially, alone. So to have someone to, review with, it's not just me going on for over an hour and a half. This is great. And thank you for joining me with this. And I look forward to editing it. And if you want to reveal, well, I guess don't really need to reveal in this, but if you want to talk about, we're going to, more of your final thoughts and where we go from here.
I mean, final thoughts. I mean, it's just a fantastic movie. Just such good stuff. But as for a reveal, so we're going to be teaming up again. We're going to be going on my channel this time instead of, we'll switch back and forth every now and then, but we're going to be going on my channel soon for review for Superman and Lois. So we're going to pick up with the episode that comes out, this week. We'll probably do like a recap of what's happened since then, because this will be the first one that we both do. Like, it's like, oh, this is the major stuff that happened in 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're on 5. So we'll be heading there. And, just want to say thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you so much for coming by, for giving us your time. This review went for quite a while, but let's be serious. There was a lot to say about this.
Yeah, it's tough to say everything that happened in, a half hour and an hour, as you can see here, but it's just a few, I think I can, speak for the both of us that we wanted to, give our honest opinion and dissect as much as we could without going too long. And I feel like we did that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And, it was great teaming up with you, doing this awesome little review. 3 cheers for the Snyder Cut and for anything else that's coming out in the future. So let's try and get that going. Definitely. And I guess that's about it.
All right. Yeah. So just to quickly mimic what you just said, thank you everyone who tuned in. Thank you for everyone who's been supporting, both our channels and social media pages. I'll include the link to all that fun stuff in the description. and really hope you guys reacted this well and restore the Snyderverse. Take it easy, everybody.